I'm 95 years old. So with that span of time, you can just imagine that I remember President Aguinaldo all the way to President Duterte. And that's my advantage over most people in this land today, because I have seen history from the time of the Americans all the way to now. History was totally distorted to favor one group.
And it is unfortunately continuing. That is why exercises such as these are important.
Little by little, the truth will come out.
Well,
I'm glad that you have asked me to join this conversation so that at least we can somehow correct the distortions of history.
I am very grateful to you.
And I'm willing to challenge anybody here in this country to debate with me about the events.
We put this together really because of the mail that I have been receiving in my social media. And the millennials have a different approach, it seems, to the events of history, the history of your lifetime, for that matter. And the millennials seem to want to know what it is behind the decisions that my father and the members of his government made in the time of the Marcos administrations. And so we thought the best, most authoritative person that we could find would be you, as you were not only in the middle of the action, as it were, but you were part of the decision-making process of many of the important events that occurred.
During the first 3 years of martial law, you can open your window, leave your house, nobody will touch it. That's how peaceful the country was.
So it wasn't the typical country under military rule where you had tanks in the streets and you had soldiers pulling people out of their homes.
Of course, in the beginning we had curfew.
Yes, we had. Yes, I remember that.
We had to give grant passes.
So, Tito, the account you're giving as to the approach, the build-up towards the declaration of martial law and the actual implementation of it and the enforcement of the military rule is very different from what we are hearing. And for you, Tito, for example, I mean, I hear it too, but of course, it's a different. You come from a different perspective. What is the biggest fallacy that the young people now are being fed about the reasons behind and the actual events of martial law?
They claim that we killed a lot of people, and that's why when I was interviewed by someone some time ago, I challenged her. Name me one that we executed, what we killed other than Lim Seng.
What was the accusation? Was that the summarily executed?
That we had 70,000 persons arrested, which was not true. Maybe if they will include the people who violated curfew and the jaywalkers, maybe you can reach that number.
But anyone who was
people can go out at night. They can go out and fish. They can go out to farm. They can go out. They were free, in fact. Of course, if you are a member of the rebel group or a warlord or who violated a criminal law, you have to be arrested, whether you have martial law or not.
It sometimes, I'm mystified sometimes by the lack of understanding of the simple fact that if you attack the government, you attack the state needs to defend itself.
Of course.
And that's why fighting would break out. And that's
name me one person that was arrested because of political or religious belief during that period. None. They controlled Meralco, they controlled the media, they controlled the newspapers and the radio, many facets of the industry. The industrialization of the country was controlled by the so-called oligarchs of the land.
So this is one of the elements that pushed the government towards the declaration of martial law
Yes.
in 72.
Apart from the fact that indeed there was a need of it, because what was the social condition of the land at this point? We were dealing with separatism in Mindanao. We were dealing with a very strong communist party. We were dealing with the onset of drugs menace in the country. We were dealing with landlords, political warlords over the land, and the high criminality in the land. And what was our instrument of power at that point? We had only less than 50,000 in the armed services. That included the constabulary, the army, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Coast Guard. And our weapons were carbines and Garands of World War II vintage.
World War II vintage.
Against the Belgian FALS, the Kalashnikov or AK-47 of our adversaries.
I think nakakalimutan dito the extent of this warlordism and the size of the private armies.
The size of firearms in the hands of the civilian population was much more than the capability of the armed forces of the Philippines and the constabulary. When martial law was declared,
there was an
we
amnesty.
harvested about 600,000 guns all over the country of all kinds.
As opposed to our 50,000
Less than 50,000 to be exact. I think we had only about 48,000.
uniformed services.
Yeah.
So the people do not realize the extent of the warlordism because I don't think we have the modern equivalent.
Apart from these factors that I told you, their political organization, especially the political organization of the Communist Party of the Philippines, was extensive. They have a united front that was very strong. Until now, that united front is operating through the NDF. Oh, they covered labor, the universities, academe, farmers, fishermen, women, teachers, all over. They infiltrated even the church. And we did not only have the armed elements of the Communist Party and the separatists, we have the Christian Liberation Army. Even the church was involved.
So in that time, the government assessed that the largest security problem was the communist insurgency.
Correct.
And that is that the martial law was really a response to that
Correct. One of the reasons why President Marcos finally declared martial law, very few people will remember this now, was because there was already a working coalition between the Liberal Party and the New People's Army, the New Communist Party of the Philippines, headed by Sison at this point. And President Marcos realized that the country was too fragile with a very limited military capability to contain the problem.
But this is something new. I did not know there was a formal agreement or between a political party.
God. Ninoy Aquino and I met in the house of Ramon Silay in Urdaneta village. He was my neighbor. Paul Aquino is still alive. He was present in that meeting. He was the one who reported to me that he had a meeting with the leadership of the Communist Party and they were discussing a coalition government.
But this was together with the Liberal Party at the time?
He was a member of the Liberal Party.
But the Liberal Party hierarchy was part of this arrangement? Or?
When President Marcos finally confronted them with information, they refused to talk to President Marcos.
I didn't proclaim martial law alone. It is made to appear as if I just signed the decree.
May good news po tayo ngayon dahil opisyal na inendorso ng KBL o kilusang bagong lipunan si Bongbong Marcos bilang Pangulo ng ating bansa at kasama na dito ang pagsuporta ng KBL kay Attorney Larry Gadon bilang senador ngayong 2022 elections. At pakinggan po natin ang pagsiwalat ni Attorney Larry Gadon tungkol sa mga isyung paninira sa pamilyang Marcos na ibinabato sa kanila sa mahabang panahon.
The KBL has remained to be a very active political party. And as a matter of fact, up to now, the KBL is considered or recognized as one of the 6 dominant parties. And that we are very much honored to be the party that will carry Bongbong Marcos to the presidency. And I'd like to thank also the KBL for nominating me as a candidate for senator. Sa totoo lang, BBM now is the strongest candidate. This is a fact. And that this is the reason why the Aquinos and the Yellows are doing everything to discredit Bongbong Marcos with rehashed issues on martial law and the alleged stolen wealth. But they haven't realized that the Aquino-appointed, the Aquino-controlled Sandigan Bayan has dismissed all the ill-gotten cases against the Marcoses. Walang kahit isa lumusot, despite the fact that the Sandigan Bayan justices were appointed by the Aquinos, despite the fact that the Sandigan is controlled by the Aquinos, that dismiss lahat ng kaso.
Ibinasura ng Sandigan Bayan ang mahigit 3 dekada ng kaso kaugnay sa ill-gotten wealth ng pamilya Marcos dahil sa kakulangan daw ng ebidensya. Sa desisyon ng Sandigan Bayan 4th Division, ibinasura nito ang civil case number 0011 na isinampa noong July 22, 1987 ng Presidential Commission on Good Government o PCGG laban kina dating Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos, dating First Lady Imelda Marcos, at mga negosyante sina Ricardo Silverio Sr. at Pablo Carlos Jr. Ayon sa Sandigan Bayan, bigo ang PCGG na magpresenta ng sapat na ebidensyang magpapatunay na nakakuha ng mga kickback at komisyon ang mga Marcos kapalit ng mga kontratang ibinigay umano nila kina Silverio at Carlos na inakusahang cronies na mag-asawa. Sabi rin ng korte, walang ebidensya na ill-gotten o iligal na nakuha ang kinukustyong mga ari-arian at yaman ni na Marcos, Silverio at Carlos.
Kuminsan na etos dito sa mga forum na ganito, nasasabi, the Marcoses are accused of revisionism. Revisionism, pinapalitan lang namin ang kwento ng kasaysayan. Who is doing the revisionism? Linagay nila sa libro ng textbook ng mga bata na ganito na ang mga Marcos, ganitong ninakaw, ganito ang ginawa. Ngayon, lumalabas sa korte, hindi totoo lahat ng sinabi ninyo. Dahil hindi nyo na ipakita. I can call anyone a murderer. I can call anyone a thief. But I have to prove it.